You can come. It's okay. It's cool. Come on. Come on. Go. Go. Anybody this tall or less? Oh my goodness. It's gold. Yeah. Does anybody else have gold on you? Seriously? Now you see, the church can take that and melt it down. Well, you have to send it off, pay a fee, and it comes back a little bit of percentage, but we get to keep the money. Where'd you get it? Grandma. It's grandma's gold. That's even better. Yeah? Sorry. So I have some bad news. Are you ready? Summer's half over. Yeah, right, go back to school. Can't wait. What grade are you in? You're not in the 5th grade. Somebody's lied to you. Oh, kindergarten. I love kindergarten. Give me some 5 on kindergarten. You're going to 1st? Are you already ready? Are you ready? Are you getting ready to go to school already? Really? Listen, so when you go home today, tell Mom and Dad that Pastor Sean said, y'all need to go shopping this week. Buy stuff, and you can use the excuse to get ready for school. Nobody wants new clothes, new shoes, new... Man, at what age does this kick in? Because all of my girls would take that excuse and run with it. Right? All right, Miss Mary's got some cool stuff planned for y'all, so y'all head on out of here. That's Miss Mary. She's taking you down to kids' class. For our visitors, and when you start looking for your kids, they're that way. You go out, down, around, and under. Gather your gold. What? Oh. Did she just snort coffee? I love that. Not snort it in. She snorted out. That's different. You can grab a Bible, you can do that. Pull up YouVersion if you're going to do that. They will be on the screens if you're just really lazy. The week before vacation, we talked about the ecclesia, meaning the church itself, what the church actually is, what the church kind of does, what the church should be or should be doing. And we kind of started getting into the mode of thinking, rethinking outside the normal church box. So today, I'm going back to some things that have happened and things that we're going towards. And I found that I did a sermon about, if anybody's good at note-taking, I'll ask you, when the last time I preached Acts chapter 4. Is it on your notes? Oh, you're not going that far? Oh, I thought you had it. Corey's got it in her Bible. She'll actually tell me the date. Acts chapter 4. We're going to be around Acts chapter 3 and 4 area, and we're going to look at some things that the early church did that are indicators about how they think. And that's really the crux. So I also started doing this. So at the beginning of the sermon, I'm telling you what I'm trying to get across, so that if I fail, I got it across. No matter what I do in the middle, you get the crux of it, okay? So the crux of today is how you... It's not supposed to be about prayer, though, but how you pray is an indicator, okay, of where you are as a church, okay? Now, to be where you are as a church, you also have to kind of think about where you are as a person, because as you go, so goes the church. And we're talking about the ecclesia, the gathering of people who gather around the resurrection of Jesus Christ, not those who gather around in particular types of churches or a particular type of gathering based on some sort of weird reason. Y'all do know that, right? You gather for weird reasons. Connie, you're kind of shaking your head. I know. How many of you all actually go to a Baptist church back home? If you're from up north. Okay. How many of you go to something other than a Baptist church back home? Okay, that's cool. We're not your mama's Baptist church. We're not like any, but we're actually probably not like any other church either. But you go to that church based on something other than the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Okay, now it's pivotal that it's in there. All right, now you go to a Christian church. Okay, probably. Anybody go to a non-Christian church? Just checking. That was a funny one. But you go there because they believe the one thing, okay? But then you actually stay going there because of something else. And literally, statistics tell us that about 80% of it is style of music or style of worship, okay? So style of worship meaning you like that that's why you go? See there? There you go. So you think about it for just a minute and think about why. You can think about why you go here. Some of you are wondering why you still go here. That's fine too. You can do that. Or think about, if you're from up north, think about why you go to the church you go to. You know, your pastor's really good looking. Your pastor's preaches really well. That's just here. I don't know. Maybe y'all don't do that. No, but you've got a reason. And here's what's really upsetting. If that thing changes, you will stop going. If that main thing changes about your church, you will stop going. If you came or if you go to your church because of the pastor, newsflash, pastors go places. They go to other churches, normally that are paying them more. Okay? If that pastor leaves, you will leave. You'll go find somebody else. You won't like the new guy, no matter what happened. No matter how good he is, you will not like him. He's never going to live up to the standard that you've already got set. If you go for the music, if you go because there's a live band, guess what? And the live band stops, you'll quit going. That's why here you never know what you're going to get. Are you going to get live, Memorex, karaoke, whatever we do? It's different all the time. You never know. So if you came for music here, you're probably schizophrenic. If you're staying, because it fits in. You're like, oh, I like it. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. You can't make up your mind. That's okay too. But just think about that, and I want you to just kind of analyze that through today, and as we go, and when you go back home, kind of look around and go, why do I go here? I literally went to a church one time that had hard pews. Did y'all know that churches actually used to have hard wooden pews? You're sitting just like that one. This church used to have those pews. I went to a church one time, and they changed the pews, and people left. They liked the hard pew. Yeah, I cannot believe they took out the hard pews, and they put in these cushy, soft pews. And so they left. They went to another church. That church ended up having soft pews put in. And that's what normally happens. When you go to churches for other reasons, you end up switching a lot. I told you last week about the guy on the deserted island. Y'all remember him, right? He was there for 6 years. And he got rescued. And he was given a tour of his little island because they wanted to know how you survived. They showed him his house. He showed him where he cooked his food. They showed him all this stuff. And he said, and this is where I go to church. And the guy that was rescuing him looked out to the distance, and there was this old dilapidated building. He's like, well, what is that over there? He goes, that's my old church. And that's just how you and I are. It's just how we are. That is so very starkly different when you read Acts as far as what the church looked like. The church gathered for one reason and for one reason only, because they believed that this guy named Jesus had died, rose again, and was doing things, had come back to life, and had visited them. And then they believed that this thing called the Holy Spirit would move inside of them. Crazy talk, right? But it moved inside of them and it actually changed them. That's what they believed, and that's why they gathered. And then that's what they sought out. They would just seek out, are you like that? Are you like that? Come on, let's gather together. And then they would go tell people about it. and then there was other people that would show up, and then there were people that wouldn't show up. But what's really interesting to me is not even necessarily how the inside of the buildings look even today, but how the outside world looks at you. And I will hear all the time that our world is changing. And I will hear that, look how we're being persecuted as Christians. The world hates us. The world is really messed up. The world doesn't like us like they used to. I mean, listen, the church used to be the center of everything. Our country was founded on the Bible and its principles, and look how it changed. Guess what? When you go back and you look at how this thing started, the world did love the church. The Bible tells us over and over and over that they found favor among the cities. They found favor among the men. Not because the world believed what they believed. Not even because the world acted like they thought they should. But because the church acted like the church. Because when the church acts like the church, meaning you, when you act like you know who Jesus is in your life, you know, when you actually live like you're a follower of Christ, even an atheist will love you. There's nothing, there is zero inside of you, okay, once Christ moves in, that makes people hate you. Nothing. There's nothing about God that people hate. Okay? Just think about that for a minute. Love others, be kind to one another, share with others, help others. You know, you're doing all this stuff. Who has ever been hated because you were too nice to people? I mean, people just line up hating you, right? Because you're so nice, you're so generous, you're so compassionate. People just can't stand you. Anybody had that? No. You see, what happened is you changed. We changed. The church changed. The world didn't change. Guess what? The world's still going to hell. Its destiny is set, has always been set, ain't going to change. The world. You are not supposed to change. So that's what we're kind of learning, is what this early church kind of looked like, and then what it is. And we're not trying to mock behaviors. We're not trying to do what they did, except for one thing. Keep our focus on the reason we're actually supposed to be gathering together. You know, ekklesein. I don't know if you can put an ing at the end of that or not. Can I ekklese? Can I verb? I can. Oh, if I hyphen? Anyway, so I'm on ekklese today. We're going to gather. Now, why you're gathering? Because this guy rose from the dead. It's around this event. That's what started it. That's what's got it. So that's kind of what we've been talking about. So let's talk about it. I'll give you a quiz. Y'all know two people who've been crucified. Y'all know who they are? You should be able to get the one. Well, Peter wasn't actually crucified the same way, so you can't actually count that one. So Jesus was crucified, and then, huh? No, these. I'm talking about you know him by name. One other guy. There's one other guy in antiquity that you know that's been crucified. Huh? Nope. Okay, y'all are all thinking Bible. I said historically. Huh? Thank you. One. Spartacus. Oh, that Spartacus, the one that was crucified. Yeah, that's the one we're talking about. Yeah, you know one other guy, if you remember history at all. Okay, this would be world history, right? Yeah, world history. So around 70 B. This is before Christ even came, before Christ even was born. 70 BC, Spartacus was crucified because he had led this slave rebellion, and Rome actually existed because of slaves. And so he kind of gathered them up, and they ignored him for a little while, but he had gained so much momentum that they gathered the leaders together, and they were like, this is not going to be good. Anybody ever watched the movie Bug's Life? Yeah. So you know when the grasshopper is it the grasshopper this? Yeah, when the grasshopper stands up and he goes, if those ants ever figure out that they outnumber us, 20 to 1 or 100 to 1 or something like that, if they ever figure that out, we're done. Okay, so you never let them figure that out. So that's what leaders kind of gathered together, and that was the speech that the leaders had together, and they were like, if they figure this out, we're done. Because we got millions and millions of slaves, and we ain't got but a couple 100,000 people in the army. And it won't take long, even with sticks, for them to overthrow it. So they figured out, well, we'll just kill the leader. And that's what they did. So they hung Spartacus, crucified Spartacus, and a few of his leaders, but we don't know their names. And they lined them up on the road into Rome. So that anybody that was coming in and out, they were kind of like, oh, these people mean business. So fear, scare tactic. So I tell you that story because, well, it was supposed to be more numbers. So Katya, me and you are going to have a conversation now for like an hour. No, to understand, why do you know that? Why do you know that? You know that because historians went back and they wrote down all of this information about him. They dug, they verified things, they found natural causes, what it was called natural causes in history to verify that the story is true. That's how history works. You don't just take people's word for it. If you take a story that it's just people's word for, it usually dies within about 100 years. Okay, there are no stories that you've got that are just based on someone's telling of the story that's been around more than about 100 years. That's historically speaking. So these historians, they go and they build the story, So you know that guy, and then you know the other one, Jesus. Now, why do you know the story of Jesus? Don't tell me it's the Bible, because you knew about Jesus. You knew the man's name, and you knew kind of what happened to him about being crucified. You knew that before you became a Christian. Okay? We're told now, we know now, that two-thirds of the planet believe that this guy named Jesus had something to do with God, or has something to do with God. So they're not all followers, I'm not saying that, but they know this. And you knew this. And you got to start asking your question, why? Okay? You've got to start, you have to at least wonder. See, I wonder every week why you come to church. I literally wonder that. I do. Why do you come to church? And when I look at your face, I wonder, why are you here? I do. Not, huh? Let me get you a stool? We can kind of tag team this in. Good girl. Yeah, so people will literally ask, they may ask you, they may ask me, why are you here? What are you doing here? Whatever. Yeah, absolutely. And I want you questioning that. I really do. Because I believe I don't believe the early church had to ask. And I'm not going to pretend to be able to tell you philosophically or psychologically why I think you and I need to be asking. But I think you and I need to be asking. Or at least reminding. Because our human nature switches over to those other ideas, those other reasons. Okay? Could be a good youth program, could be a kid program, could be anything, right? That makes you get up on Sunday morning and bring your family to church, or bring yourself to church, or whatever it is. It could be anything. But why do you know about this guy? That should be part of your questioning. How did I figure this out? Because if you'll answer that question, it'll actually astonish you. And it will help you to remember why you're supposed to be ecclesiaing together. Because it'll freak you out. Because secular historians actually went back and they wanted to answer this question. And they wanted to explain to the planet why everybody knows this name Jesus. Why it's so popular. I mean, this no-name man who grew up in a no-name area of the Middle East under major oppression when there's no way any other uprising has ever survived. People wanted to know how that happened, and they came up with some weird historical explanations. I mean, so weird that no historian could get another historian to agree with them about their findings. It was just weird. Now, you and I have one thing. Okay, we have 4 historically accurate, written down accounts. Okay, the Bible, 4 stories: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Okay, that's why that's why we believe that it's there. But you got to remember, this wasn't even printed for after the 1st century. The whole 1st century Christians didn't have none of that. So what? You got to wonder, what was it? Guess what? It was those people. It was the church. It was you. Now look forward. Look up into the future that we don't even have promised. If you were in Sunday school, that's a return to Sunday school. So look up into the future. Look up into the future 1,000 years. Are you banking on the church, the local church, to keep Jesus' message going forward? Are you banking, well, we got the Bible now. We have it digitally. I mean, you can get it anywhere. Are you counting on the Bible to tell the world? Are you counting on the Bible to move Jesus' name on through the future if it's here? Is that what you're counting on? Are you sure? You're not counting on that? You've taken it to heart that it's your job? She has. The rest of you think about it. Think about it. What are you counting on to move Jesus' name forward? Because just like in the 1st century it was the church's responsibility, it is your responsibility. Jump over to Acts. What's our first verse there, Katya? I'm not even using my notes. Probably should have. Oh, so I'll give you a lead-up story. So let me just leave that up there because that'll keep me on track. If anything can, the Bible can, right? So our lead-up story is coming from. So think about one more time. Think about church. Think about why you're there. Think about what this means to you, and kind of like all this stuff that kind of goes into church and what that means. But also think about. It's okay. Go ahead and think about the things that's burned you from the church. I mean, how many? Okay, I'm not asking you. I'm not tricking you. How many of you have been to more than one church in your life that did not involve changing towns? So more than one church in the same kind of area. Okay, good. That's good. So you're the one I'm talking about. Probably because something happened. Okay, maybe you're burned, whatever. I'll just tell you my short story. Do y'all know why churches have a center aisle? To run out. Actually, no. I was taught. We have 3 here, so I don't know. We were really schizophrenic here, I think. Most churches only have a center aisle. Okay, and I was always taught so that on Wednesday night you could choose a side, and then you could fight. Literally, I mean, if you've ever been to a Baptist church where I grew up, when they talked about like changing pew colors or the paint in the walls, there was the fight. And there was this side and there was this side. And I've literally sat in churches where people would turn and face one another and argue across that aisle. Stupidest stuff on the planet. And anybody witness what I witnessed? Okay, good. I thought surely I couldn't have been I could not have found the most dysfunctional church on the planet. But no, it was there. So they're there, and I told you this story a long time ago. I watched the head deacon claim to be able to beat up all the other deacons and the preacher, who was my dad. Yeah, they were talking after church one day, and that's literally what he said. He says, "I can whoop every deacon in here, including you." Like, whoopee! And he was a big, ugly dude. He probably could have. I don't know. But anyway, so you all know these stories, okay? So or somebody who has a story, and if you didn't, you don't. Now you do. This is really funny. Real fast. I never do anything real fast. So we're going to do communion today. Has anyone ever heard the word closed communion? Yeah, anybody go to a church that's closed communion? So I'm going to make fun of them. No, I'm talking about a Christian church that's closed communion. You have been, or you do now? Oh, God, glad you left that. So yeah, here's what closed. Anybody not know what closed communion means? Now, here's what closed communion means. If we were having this today, literally, this is what churches do. If we were having this today, and I would have ushers at the back door, and everybody who belongs here would actually sit around the front, and we would ask our guests to sit near the back couple of rows. And we kind of leave a separation between. And then we wouldn't do it this way, though. We would pass this plate that had crackers on it, and we would pass this plate that had juice cups on it, and we would stop when we got to the break in the pews, because we wouldn't want to have communion with the people who don't belong. Okay? So think about that thinking for just a minute. That thinking means you belong here, Beach Baptist, not ecclesia. So you see how the mentality can kind of get weird? You get weird? I set all that up to tell you. Okay, so here we are. Now we're getting ready to this. Here we go. So the church is gone. Or the church has started. Jesus is gone. It's ascended. Peter and John, now they're Christians. They're going to temple, and that kind of creates a rub. So getting in here, they're walking to temple, and I think it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're going. There's this guy laying at the gate. He's got his cup. He's been lame since birth, and he's begging. So Peter and John walk up, and the guy goes, "Hey, you got anything? I need some money. I need some money. I need some money." And Peter and John said, "You know what? Y'all know this phrase, silver and gold, if you're King James people, silver and gold have I none, but something else I can offer you." And they say, "Get up and walk." Oh. Now, I've also been around people now that say, "See, you're not supposed to just help people." You're right. I'm going to give you some pastoral permission. If you walk past someone who is crippled and they're begging for money, you do not have to give them money as long as you can make them not crippled anymore. Okay? So you have permission to do it, okay? But if you walk by and they're crippled and asking for money, you've got two options. Either heal them or give them money. All right? No other options. Okay? So that's your one task for today. Learn that. Okay? Somebody needs something, and you think it's something else. Like okay, so we're not going to find anybody that's crippled. But let's just say there's somebody who has an addiction that you know of. Okay? And they ask you for money. And you say, "I'm not giving you money. You're going to use that on your addiction." Okay, so you have two options. Heal them of their addiction or give them money. You choose. Do whichever one you want to do. And I brought that up because we're going to bring that up again. Okay, I've not used my notes so much, I've had to put my password in 7 times since I've been up here. Anyway, so in the first century, so here we go. In the first century, so they loved each other. Peter and John's walking in. They say, "Heal, get up and walk, follow us in." They walk into temple. It creates this ruckus. Can you imagine? The guy's been lame from birth, and people are taught that God's people are generous. Even the world knows that God's people are supposed to be generous. If you want to get money, you go to where the God's people are. So he would have somebody carry him every day to the temple gate. You know what? Go where God's people are, you'll get your money. So that's what he did. All right? Smart, right? Very smart. So he walks in, so everybody knows him, and they see him walking. That causes an issue, especially with people who don't actually believe what they're worshiping. When they're just there, when you're just at church for some other reason other than the fact that this guy died and rose again and is doing miraculous things in the lives of people, it freaks you out when you walk into a church and you see God doing miraculous things in the lives of people. But you see, when God does miraculous things in the lives of people, and you're there because you believe God does miraculous things in the lives of people, you're able to see the things that God's doing in the miraculous lives of people, and you're able to go, "That God is so cool." Right? Not, "Oh, you're freaky. Can't be that. Has to be something else." "Oh, I bet it is. Sure it is. You was probably faking." Something will rise up in you. But you see, that's what happened. It caused a ruckus in these people's lives. They're looking around, they're going, "Holy cow." So Peter, who's the ringleader kind of the whole Christian movement now, says, "I think I'll preach." This is where he starts. No, right, I didn't read it yet. Go back to 12. Salvation is found in no one else. For there's no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. That's going to sting a little bit, okay? Now, Christians, I'm going to caution you every time we do this now. You do not go out into the world and say that. That's not what this is for. This is not for you to stand on corners and talk. This is not for you to just meet somebody that you don't know and them say, hey, I really need some help. Well, listen, salvation's only found in one person. No. This message was given to a bunch of people who were gathered at a church but couldn't figure this out. They were open to this, okay? They're ready. Now, you can use this for somebody you don't know if they walk up and go, can you tell me how to be saved? You feel free to use that verse. First thing, that should be the first thing out of your mind. Okay? How many of you have been approached by a complete stranger that walked up and said, can you please tell me how to be saved? No one. Okay, that's statistically correct. So we know that really messes people up. And it really messes people up in the world. And it's not a good lead-in, okay? So don't do that. Don't do that. That's not what they're after right now. Not yet. Not yet. Use it. Use it. All right, so jump over and look at what he says, verse 13. He goes on. When they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. Okay, so they're religious. They kind of got their religious thinking caps on, and they so that message kind of falls okay, and it looks, and they're like, they were with Jesus. This is okay. I can buy it. Keep going. But since they could see the man who had been healed standing there with them, there was nothing they could say. You see, so they started to kind of go, I don't know about all this. I like Moses. I like Abraham. There's a whole lot going on here at the church, it's that we really need to be focused on, But there was this guy standing behind Peter and John who was just kind of standing there. Yeah, yesterday I wasn't a stander. Today I'm a stander. I've pretty much been standing ever since. Nobody can argue that I'm standing now. And it was because of those guys. And this guy they're talking about, Jesus, I don't even know him. But guess what? I'm going to get to know him. Because they say I'm standing because of him. So I think I'm going to listen to what they have to say. And then you and I wonder why people don't listen to what we have to say. Because the things that come out of our mouth aren't what Jesus has done in our lives. What comes out of our mouth isn't what Jesus did. What comes out of our mouth isn't about God's resurrection of Jesus, his son, so that you and I can be saved. That's not what comes out of our mouth. I mean, literally garbage comes out of our mouth. Especially when it has to do with religion or the other stuff about God that we follow. You can only say certain things, do certain things, be certain ways. When that stuff comes out of our mouth, it just falls on deaf ears. But when they're able to see in your life, when they're able to see you and go, you are one of the most compassionate people I've ever met. You are one of the most joyful people I've ever met, and I know your life, and I know there's no reason for you to be joyful. I believe what you're saying. At least I believe that you believe. I mean, can people even say that about you? Can people even look at your life and go, I believe that you at least believe it? Or do they even look at you and go, I don't even think you believe it. The stuff you're telling me, and then the way you live, I don't think you believe it. Because I think the world questions why you're following. I think the world questions all the time why you're gathering. I think your neighbors who aren't Christians wonder why every Sunday morning you get up and you leave your house early, dressed prettier than you were the rest of the week, and then come home after lunch. I think they wonder. But I don't think the neighbors of the early church wondered. Because if they did, it wouldn't have moved. See, this thing was a movement. It couldn't have been. If it wasn't for stuff like this, if it wasn't for the neighbors seeing. Okay, now I'm not saying you need to go out and you need to find people to heal so people believe you. Listen, what you need to understand is you've been healed. You know, you've been healed from a piggish life. You've been healed from being a cantankerous, going to hell person. You've been healed from that. Okay? Your life needs to now resemble it. You're a stander. You need to be standing all the time. That's metaphorically. What does your life look like because of who you are, or whose you are? What does it resemble to the rest of the world? That's what makes this thing work. Well, let's kind of look at what happens. Let's just keep going. It's a good story. When they heard this, they raised their voices together in prayer to God. Okay, so hold on. We jumped a lot of verses, right? So here's what happened. So Peter and John, they actually get arrested. The leaders come over, they grab them together, and they put them in basically jail, and they go, hey, listen, you're going to have to kind of cut this out. You know, this whole Jesus talk, even though you brought your stander, I get it. You're going to have to tone it down. Because they knew exactly what you know. They do. If you let a Jesus freak get in charge, it's chaos feeling. And it's not really chaos, but it feels like chaos. There's no box to live in. There's no standard to kind of, you can't feel real comfortable when you come to church, right? You understand? Because these people that are arresting them understood that if we can control the religion, we talked about that 3 weeks ago. If you can control the religion, you can control the people. If you can control the people, you can actually control the government. If you can control the government, you've got all the toys. Right? So that's what they were doing. They knew that they could control the people with their religion, but not like this. Not if people started standing all of a sudden. You know, if everybody, you start talking about this movement, this resurrection, if you start literally telling people that you believe this stuff and they know it in your life, you start telling people that you know that you love Jesus and why you love him, things are going to get weird around you. I can promise you that even today. It's going to get weird. So guess what? You can just talk to them about church and then it doesn't get weird, right? Most everybody you know has had some sort of run-in with a church. Back to our original. They've all had some sort of run. So you've got common ground. You can say, hey, why don't you come to our church? We have soft pews. Right? Well, why don't you come to our church? We have really contemporary music. Not that old stuff. Yeah. Well, why don't you come to our church? We have the old stuff. Not that new contemporary mess. Right? Well, why don't you come to our church? Yeah. We never go to sleep in our church because our pastor speaks really loud and really fast. You got to keep up with him. Right? Or why don't you come to our church? Our preacher never really gets on you. It's okay. They don't really, it's not like fire and brimstone or nothing. It's just like, you can come in, it's all good, and then you can leave. Yeah, why don't you come to our church? Why don't you? See, that's common ground. No. See, we've lost fact. We've lost focus. The only reason we gather is because there was this man named Jesus who died and rose again and did something in our life that made me different than I was yesterday. Or before I knew him. But you're not afraid to talk about that. You know why we're afraid to talk about that? Real quick, let's look at your prayer life, and then we'll be done. Think about next year, 12 months from today. If all your prayers get answered, between the majority of us, the only person that's going to be different is you and maybe one or two family members. The only life that's going to get changed based on your prayer life, now I'm talking statistically, within 12 months, the only people that are going to be different are you and one or two family members. That's where we are. Because you see, back then, the church looked this way. They looked out. And they saw a world who needed Christ. And they went to it. over time, their faces turned in on themselves, and they became very inwardly focused. In churches, natural gravitational pull is to go, but then to turn around and inward focus. And that indicator is based on your prayer life. That indicator is where your communications with God is focused. See, I believe Peter and John, although they were walking to church, had a prayer that probably resembled, God, use me today for something to benefit you. Use me to benefit something for you. They walked past the beggar, and when you walk past the beggar after you've prayed that prayer, there's no stopping and going, well, I wonder if this is what God wants. Oh, it could be, but I don't have a really good clear vibe right now. Maybe when I come back in. Maybe when I come back out. Y'all ever done that? There's somebody begging for money at Walmart. Y'all ever been, don't lie to me. They ask for money, and you're like, maybe when I come back. I don't have any change right now. Like with your credit card, you're going to get change. And remember the guy out front. No, it's just, that was always been my standard line. If somebody's asking for money, I'm going in somewhere, I go, maybe when I come back out. And you know what I do? Go out another door. Yeah. See, some of y'all are like, shame on you. Shame on you. Wish I'd have thought of that. You are. Anyway, I digress. But really, when you ask the question, God, use me to do something that benefits you today, it happens. Okay? And then we become a little more outwardly focused. And you see, my challenge as your pastor, I'm talking now to the local church real quick. It's the same for your pastors up north too, I hope. But my challenge is to keep you outwardly focused. It is to put things in your path that make you look outward while still maintaining the inward. The inward should just kind of chug along like it should, as long as we're outward focused. But the whole chugging along requires some work, requires some doing. But my goal is that we don't just look at that stuff, that we don't just do that stuff, but we're always constantly looking out. That's why we've renewed our commitment to helping people on our beach. Not just those that come on our campus and we offer some, but to literally put our energy into somebody, people. Over the past 3 weeks, we've helped now our third person get into a rehabilitation program. Now, our church is focusing on recovery, okay? That's different than rehabilitation, a little bit. Rehabilitation happens, and then recovery follows, okay? So we believe as a church, everybody needs to be in recovery, okay? Everybody. Not everybody needs to be in rehabilitation, okay? So rehabilitation is recovering from, or is rehabbing from a particular, could be a substance, it could be an addict, it could be anything, but it takes some intense study. So we have a partner in St. Pete that we now, so people can come here and they can ask for help, and we can get them into a rehabilitation program. It costs us $660 per person. That's all it costs. Phase 1, because by phase 2, they're already self-sufficient enough to pay their own way. That's very intense. It's an awesome program. Can't believe it's there. And today, our third guy's sitting in the room. And I already told him that I'm going to tell you who he is. So, Carrie, there he is. There's Carrie. Raise your hand, Carrie. Carrie leaves at. I'm glad you clapped, but you might not be glad you clapped. Because I'm going to challenge you about being ecclesia, okay? Because Carrie knew that you can come. Carrie knew that you can come here and get help, and we would finding the resources to do it, and we did it. So now let me talk about your prayer. On our prayer sheet on Wednesday night, we listed the other two guys, Quinn and Robbie. Okay, and we at Beach Baptist, we don't believe that you just get to go pray. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you, Norris, okay? So I'm going to go tomorrow and I'm going to pray for Norris, but that's all I'm going to do. Nope. If I'm praying for Norris, I believe that I've got to call Norris tomorrow, and I got to say, Norris, I prayed for you today. Or I got to text him, say, Norris, I prayed for you today. Or I got to say, hey, Debbie, I prayed for you today. I'm thinking of you today, Debbie. You know, that's what this looks like. It's not just, oh, I'll pray for you if I remember. It's not like that. On our prayer sheet on Wednesday nights, we put those two boys' names, or guys' names. One boy, one guy. And I'm sitting there last night, and I'm going over this, and I'm like, man, it's 10:15, and I'm like, man, I got to challenge our people. Man, they've got to be in contact with these guys. I mean, how can we say we're praying for them when we never contact them? How can we say we're praying for them if we never talk to them? How can we say we're praying for them if we're never really involved in their life? And God said, I don't know, when's the last time you called him? Oh, crap. And for about 3 minutes, literally, me, the guy giving you this little lashing about not being involved in people's lives, argue with God about why it was too late to call them, about how I didn't know their number. But he stayed on me so much that I sat for the next 5 minutes searching my little computer in a hand, which I knew the number was there, and I found it. And I could call. And guess who freaking answered the house phone? The guy I was supposed to call. Quinn. It's just Quinn, TN24. Like, what? Why are you answering the phone at 10:15? He said it rang. Touche. So we talked. He said, I had a little setback last week, man, but I got through it. I'm pushing. It's great programs helped me. He put Robbie on the phone. Robbie's like, I ain't never been this excited about my life. And I'm 38. What do you tell me? He's 38 years old. He's 38 years old. He just turned 39. This is Debbie's son. And he's like, never been excited. He said, I got my job lined up. He said, I've got a business plan put together with these guys. We've set it up. He's been there 4 weeks. 4 weeks. And pushing through. And I'm like, he's like, thanks for calling, man. It was really cool. Checking in. I'm like, man, I couldn't tell you I was praying for you if I didn't call and tell you I was praying for you. So I say all that to say, Carrie's leaving at noon tomorrow on a Greyhound bus. I'm not going to print his name on a piece of paper until Wednesday. So if you're really concerned about encouraging Carrie until Wednesday, you're going to have to walk up to Carrie when church is over and say, hey, Carrie, how can I get a hold of you? Because he'll have a cell phone for the next couple of days, and then they're going to take it away. And then by Wednesday, I'll print the house phone. But in the next 2 days, while he's like tonight, when he goes home by himself, actually, Carrie doesn't have a home. Carrie's living on a porch. When he goes to his porch tonight by himself, and those thoughts of, man, I don't know if I want to do this. Will his phone ring? It will if you're ecclesia. It won't if you're a church. Because see, now you know. You've been made aware. You can't say, well, I didn't know. I know how to get a hold of him. Just told you. And then for those of you who are going who really want to get into the lives of people, and you really want to see this church work, Terry needs two things. Terry needs to ride to the Greyhound station tomorrow. He's got to leave here at 10:15. And Carrie, I'm going to call him Terry or Carrie. His name's really Carrie. And Carrie needs a duffel bag. If not, Carrie's going to check in at the Greyhound station with a bunch of Publix bags. Or maybe you want, don't tell me, tell Carrie. Or a trash bag. Yeah, show up at TN24 with Robbie's luggage. That'll look really good. Hey, your mom didn't like you. She gave me your luggage. Do whatever. So you came in here, and I tell you about what the church looks like, and now you have an opportunity to see if you really want to be a part of it. And just one little thing. And guess how often this stuff will come up in your life if you're actually the ecclesia? All the time. All the time. we've put 3 people in 3 weeks. Guess how long it's been since we said, God, as a church, show us how to put people in. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The first one was hell. Wasn't it? We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't stop. Now we kind of got it down. We know. We think we're called as the ecclesia in this community to do this kind of thing. We literally think like they thought. Looking out and saying, what can we do? Because you see, when people came to their ecclesia that they didn't know, they would be like, hey, we believe that Jesus died and rose again. Do you? High five. Hey. Oh, you don't? No problem. Hang out. And while you're waiting, is there anything we can do for you? I mean, is that your response? Or do you want to find out maybe what political nature they are? I don't know. Or do you want to find out what maybe you don't want to help them if they're an immigrant, right? I mean, if they're here illegally, I mean, they're absorbing all of your tax dollars. I mean, yeah, right? I mean, they're mooching off the government. Yeah, you don't want to help them people, right? I mean, you've got your segments of society that you're segregating, right? You don't? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Ask God to show you who you're segregating. Because we're getting ready to have communion. Listen, if you're helping with communion, Connie and Dave, y'all meet back there in room 1 real fast. We're going to get out of here. James, would you help? Would you take that guy right behind you, Ken? Help him? Yeah, Dave Easterbrook, you grab somebody else as you're passing. Oh, take Diane with you, since you're married to her. That'll be our 3. Yeah, go that way. Meet Papa back there. He'll hook you up. Kenny, follow him. And now, look, that's 3 Daves up front. You can't do that. It's okay. What'd you say? Oh, he wanted to. Yeah. You sure it was him wanting to, or you didn't want to? Oh, okay. Don't discriminate against. All right. So as your communion, see, we always have open communion here. Duh. Yeah, I don't even care if you're a Christian. What do I care, right? Because we're communing with God. I don't know whether you know God or not. So this is open to everybody. Here's what I want you thinking when you come up here and you pull off this piece of body that we say is Christ's body broken for us. And when you dip it in this cup of juice, we're still Baptist. It's not alcoholic. So you dip it in there, which we call the blood of Christ shed for you. Okay, and as you eat that and you're communing, okay, you're communing with us and you're communing with God. As you're doing that, think about this. What can you do? What does your prayer life look like that you need to switch around? That you need to outwardly change it. That you need to be saying, God, what is it that you want from me today to benefit you? Let him show you that as you're pulling this bread off and you're dipping it in this cup. I'm going to pray for you, and maybe by then they'll be back. I don't know what they went to do. They're back. Oh, there they are. There they are. They're having a prayer meeting. So as they're sitting their stations, let me pray for you, and you be thinking. God, I pray that as we're sitting in this room, or that I'm sitting here, that you're reminding me just what it is you want me to do. God, can you take away my feelings for my life, literally my ideas, and instill yours into me? God, may I remember to always ask what it is you want from me. May I always have a focus that's outside of myself. I thank you for your Son, and I thank you for that reason that we're even gathered here today in this building. May we always remember it. In your name we pray. Amen. We'll have a station on that aisle, this aisle, and that aisle. So if you just make your way to one of those, here, why don't you two go to that one, since you're already here. Go to that aisle. Well, he's not paying attention. So we'll have James and Dave right here. There you go. So make your way back to your seats, and we'll dismiss one more time. Oh yeah, that'll really mess them up. Bread on the left, juice on the right. y'all take it together? Thank you. Let's all stand together. Caitlin, come here. So, looking outwardly, we realize as a church we're not. Now, what are you doing? We realize we're not doing a lot of things outwardly that we should be doing, and we also realize we need help doing some of it. So, Sharon and I decided that through a lot of prayer and some stuff just happening, God revealing some things, that we needed an internship program. We have no clue what an internship program is. We have no clue what an intern does. Don't even know what the definition of intern is. So we did what any natural person who didn't know what to do, we hired one. And when you say hire an intern, you don't have to pay them money, I found out. So we have an intern to figure out what interns are going to do. So Caitlin's a junior at the University of Kentucky. She's been here on spring break last year, so she knew about our church, and we put out a plea, and she responded. So she's here for the next 6 weeks at our church, working on setting up our internship program, which will be going forward, hopefully in perpetuity. My favorite word. Means forever, as long as you can see it. And we don't know what they're going to do, but like I said, we're going to rely on her. So when you see her around, encourage her, because she literally is being handed zero to work with, and just a bunch of ideas in mine and Sharon's head about what interns are going to look like. So this is Caitlin Davis from University of Kentucky. She's with us for 6 weeks. Love on her and see her. So you can get her phone number as well, and maybe text and encourage her a little bit. She's going to go with us to youth camp, and be thinking about our youth. Youth camp's in 10 days from Friday, right? Yeah, 10 days from Friday. So I think we have 10. So what you told me, 10 or 11 kids? 6 boys, 8, 9, 10. 9 or 10 kids, whatever, going to youth camp in Lake Yale in 14 days. So be thinking about those. Anything I forgot to mention, talk about, you've reminded me of? Are we up here Wednesday night? We're here in this building Wednesday night, back in that room for dinner at 5:30. Bible study out here at 6:15. Anything else? All right, Dave Easterbrook, pray for us. Send us out.